Right, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another class of Site 234. And this is part 4. And today we're talking about social emotional development theories and their importance. This picture here is just what it feels like at this point. This note is long. Please go away from my screen. Okay. Now, at the end of this lesson, you should understand meaning and causes of emotion. You should know at least two theories of emotions. You should understand the emotions that children can show and how to cater for it. You should understand the concept of emotional maturity. You should know the two theories of social development and the concepts behind it. So, now, all right. So at this point, we've already got into more than half. I think one more part left. So congratulations on that. Now, as I've said before, I'm not going to be reading all the bulk of it. I'm just going to be reading what I think is important or what I want to read. I don't know. So now, first thing, the word emotion was deduced from the Latin word immovere, meaning to move out. Now, some psychologists have held that emotions are disruptive states of organisms resulting from a loss of cortical dominance. Now, that is a lot of English which I did not understand. So, an easier definition would be emotions are adaptive responses to relevant stimuli mediated by the brain's reward and threat detection systems. Alright, so that's basically what that's trying to say. Others assert that emotions are organizing states that make the individual ready for action in emergency situations. Alright, so in fact, they influence most of our. Okay, that's what I explained just now. Now, causes of emotions. The following factors are responsible for the development of emotions. Now, firstly, an adjustment in home, school, or society can cause emotions in the child. Social expectation, when the parents are expecting the child to do some things after he has reached a particular age. Now, unfavorable relations at home, maybe the things at home are not working well, these parents are fighting or they are not giving you enough money, can cause emotions. Lack of love by parents and mates. Their children, you need to show your children love. If they are not giving adequate love at home, physical defects. If a particular child is on a wheelchair and all of his friends are running, or he can't see and all of his friends can see, the child can get a lot of emotions. Now we're moving on to theories of emotions. Development of emotion involves a person's awareness and the expression of an affective experience. Now, this affective experience is always either pleasurable or otherwise. If not pleasurable, it may be mild or intense. Every individual has emotions, and the kinds of emotions we feel play a great role in how we relate with others. Now, psychologists have different concepts about emotions or emotional development. These views have been articulated by these psychologists as theories. The following are some of these theories. Now, one of the major studies of development of emotional pattern in infants was carried out by Bridges in 1932. One of the major studies of development of emotional pattern in infants was carried out by Bridges in 1932. Now, her findings and evaluations are still accepted till today now, but her findings are only for 0 to 2. Now, the first one is birth. Now, at birth, there's a general state of excitement. Then 3 months, there's distress and delight. 6 months, disgust and anger. 12 months, elation and affection. 18 months, jealousy, affection for other children and adults. 24 months, all the emotions mentioned above become permanent in addition to joy. These ones, I think maybe you should just cram it. Or if you have babies around you and you understand, because I don't understand at birth state of excitement. The baby's crying, and I've tried to look for it on YouTube. I didn't see videos to explain it to me. So I'll just probably cram it. So you can just probably cram it too. Now, emotional development is directly related to cognitive development. cognitive development. That's brilliant. Therefore, further emotional development is linked with perceptual maturation. At the age of 3, the child has completed the sensory motor stage of cognitive development. At age 3, that's when the child completes the sensory motor stage of cognitive development. Therefore, he can experience emotions, but unfortunately, he does not have the capability of conceptualizing his emotional experience or those of other people. So, he can experience these emotions, but he doesn't have the ability to express them to others or to understand the emotions of other people. That's at age 3. Now, crying and anger decrease while laughter increases. Instead of such physical expressions of rage as yelling, biting, or even hitting and kicking, verbalization of these emotions is expressed. So instead of, what he did as a child, crying, kicking, at this point he can now speak and explain himself. They also tend to make use of aggression in their bid to achieve desired goals. For boys, there's more reliance on physical combat in expressing emotional displeasure, whereas in the case of girls, they tend to contend with verbal charges. So this book is basically saying, for guys at the age of 3, the way they express themselves is through physical combat, and for women, they use talking or they use verbal charges, whatever. An interesting aspect of this expression of displeasure by both boys and girls is that seconds after the expression of aggressive behavior, friendship amongst them resumes. I don't know if you've seen children, they can start fighting with each other. The next minute, they are friends again. So this should be a lesson to parents who sometimes support their children when they fight with other children. Such children soon come together again while their parents may not forgive themselves. So this one is talking about in cases where 2 children are fighting, then their parents come and start shouting at each other that, oh, your child did this, your child did that. After a few minutes, or let's say pata a day, those children have become friends. But you and the other adults that were once friends, now both of you are no longer friends. Now, it is also natural for a child to like some individuals in home or community. In this case, the child wants to associate with the person. On the other hand, if the child does not like somebody, he does not take interest in whatever he's doing. So that's why, as a teacher, or at least a kindergarten teacher, you need to, make the class lively, make the children like you. Because if they do not like you, they will not pay attention. They are the king of nonchalance, or kings and queens of nonchalance. Now, Wundt's tridimensional theory. Wundt, as a psychologist, argues that feeling cannot be described solely in terms of their pleasantness and unpleasantness, but requires 3 dimensions for a valid description. Now, these 3 dimensions are pleasantness and unpleasantness, tension, relaxation, excitement, and depression. So, what it is trying to say is every emotion or every feeling can be described using these 3 dimensions, and they cannot just be described solely with pleasantness and unpleasantness. So now, for example, feelings like joy, out of pleasantness and unpleasantness, which of them do you think it will use? It will have pleasant. Then tension and relaxation, you'd be relaxed. You won't be tensed when you're joy. Then excitement and depression, which of the 2? Excitement. So that's basically what it is. So you can basically explain every emotion or every feeling using these 3 dimensions according to Wundt. Each feeling first moves between the poles, pleasant and unpleasant, tension, okay, and then within the poles. For example, the feeling associated with laughter, okay, like I said, joy, would move rapidly along the dimension of pleasantness, while at the same time, excitement and tension will be added. I don't know what that means. The tendency is for the individual to be relaxed, though in the process he may feel a little depressed. I don't really understand what they meant here. But also, whenever they say this depressed, they don't mean like the depressed that you know. It's not depression. It's not sad, like sad depression. I think it's even one of the critics of the work. But if we want to continue, like fear now, out of pleasantness and unpleasantness, you take, like you can explain it with unpleasantness. Then tension and relaxation. Fear, you'll be tensed. Excitement and depression, you'd be excited. You wouldn't be calm when you're afraid. You'd be excited. Your heart is beating fast. The excitement there is not happiness. It's not excitement. They're just high energy or low energy. Some textbooks write that. So that's what it means. Then boredom, pleasantness or unpleasantness. You can already guess that it to be unpleasant. You'd be relaxed, and then you'll be depressed. You'll be calm. If we give relief, Relief will be what? You'll be pleasant, you'll be relaxed, and you'll also be depressed. That's for relief. So you wouldn't be in a state of high energy. Now, if you say anger, that would be unpleasant. I think at this point you can already guess it. You can already guess it. Anger, so unpleasantness, you'll be tense. That's a high energy. Then excitement. You'd be excited. Not happiness excited, but you'd be excited. That's basically what it's trying to say. Now, Wundt's theory gained many supporters, but some believe that the theory is not infallible, meaning that it's not unbreakable, I guess. The opponents do not agree that the dimension of tension, relaxation, and excitement, depression are merely elemental mental processes as Wundt would believe. These dimensions are muscular attitude. It's also argued that tension and relaxation are not true opposites. That means the opposite of tension is not relaxation, but relaxation is the 0 point of tension. So that means if you think of a number scale, at the end of it there's relaxation. There's tension. In the middle is where relaxation is, not at the polar opposite end. So whatever is at the end, I don't know what that is, but relaxation is not the opposite of tension. Now, similarly, excitement and depression are not true opposites. Calm is more logical for excitement than depression. Okay, see, it's what I was trying to say before now. All right, so James Lange theory, which is from William James and Carl Lange, or Lang, whatever. A Danish physiologist postulated a theory of emotion similar to James' theory. They both hold on to the fact that common sense says when we lose our fortune, we are sorry and we weep. When we meet a lion, we are frightened and then we run. When we are insulted by a rival, we are angry and then we strike. Now, however, others argue that this order of sequence is incorrect, that one mental state is not immediately induced by the other. The more rational statement is that we feel sorry because we cry, angry because we strike, afraid because we fear. It is not that we cry because we are sorry, strike because we are angry, or tremble because we are fearful. When I read that the first time, so that didn't make sense, so I had to go and look for material from somewhere else. So now, what they mean in the common sense view is that you first see a stimulus. So let's say, for example, you meet a lion. So the lion is the stimulus. Then, like common sense of emotions, like how everybody thinks emotion happens. So you see a lion, which is the stimulus. Then you get frightened, which is the emotion, and then you run, and then you begin to sweat and your heart begins to move fast. So that's the physiological response. Let me see if I can show you a graphic, of course. Now, if you look at it, the dog is barking, and that is a stimulus. Now, your first response is fear, then your arousal or physiological, like you can either call it physiological response, physiological change, or I don't know, you run. Now, the common sense view is the stimulus, then you get the emotion, and then your heart rate begins to pump and your hands begin to sweat. So that's a physiological change. But now James Lange is saying that when after the stimulus, you get a physiological change. And that physiological change brings about the emotion. So here we can see it here. So now this is James Lange. This is what the theory is talking about. So now you see the angry dog again. Your heart rate increase, you begin to sweat. So now he's now saying those physiological responses bring about the emotion fear. So according to James Lange, after you see the stimulus, your heart rate begins to pump and then your hands begin to sweat. You see, okay, because of that, I am now afraid. I hope that makes sense. So common sense view is where everybody thinks it goes. Dog, then the emotion brings about a physiological change or a physiological response, or you lose our fortune, you feel sorry, that's the emotion, and then you begin to cry. Crying is the physiological change. But according to James Lange, he's saying in that same scenario, you lose your money, you begin to cry, which is the physiological response, and then that your crying makes you feel sorry. But there are some criticisms to this. Now, the first one is it is possible to have physiological arousal without emotions. It is possible to have physiological arousal without emotions. Now, this is saying you can be on a beach and then you begin to sweat. Does that mean that you are scared? Or you are playing football and then your heart begins to pump faster, your heart rate increases? Does that mean you are afraid? Now, another one is arousal may not precede emotion. So you can feel super scared even before your palms start sweating and heart rate starts beating. So this is saying a lot of the time, or most of the time, you first feel the emotion before the physiological response sets in. Most of the time. You would not. So you see the dog or you see the bear, your heart rate won't start to pump first, most of the time, or your hands will start to sweat. The first thing that happens is you feel the fear, and then you get the sweaty palms and stuff like that. Now, physiological arousal can be associated with other emotions. So let's say, for example, this example I gave here. So heart rate increase. But when you're angry, your heart rate will increase. So how can you say for sure that because my heart rate increased, I'm afraid? When that same physiological response also happens when you get angry, or when you get maybe jealous, or you get the point. Sorry. Now, arousal is not necessary for emotion. Now, there are some people who have spinal cord injuries and they're in a vegetative state. Does that mean, and their bodies cannot produce a physiological response? Does that mean that they do not feel fear? So their body can't sweat, or you understand what I'm trying to say? So does that mean that you don't feel emotion? So those are the criticisms of James Lange theory. Now, important emotions of school children. So there are some emotions that school children or children in school can show, and then there are ways, and there's a need for teachers to understand the emotions. So fear, emotional states are very important elements in the life of an organism. Many features of behavior seem to be directly opposite to fear. Some of our marked aggressive tendencies show superiority over others often originate from fear and uneasiness. Fear may be regarded as the first line of defense for an organism. On the human level, during the early years, it's manifested in such an exaggerated way that it may appear as a threat to integrity and emotional well-being. So, I think fear is one of the few emotions that you are originally born with, or maybe it's even your first emotion. I'm not really sure. And I think the first two fears that you actually have is height and dark places, or like dark rooms. I'm not really sure. I can check and confirm for you later. But what I'm trying to say is every other emotion you get, like fear of snakes, fear of dogs, fear of clowns, everything is because like of your environment. Is something you learn socially. It's not something you are born with. So it is not enough to see fear as an emotional condition appearing when danger threatens an organism. Fear may be aroused by stimuli that only hint at the possibility of danger. We may differentiate between fear and anxiety by saying that when fear is present, there actually exists a clear idea of what the threat is, while an anxious person is often quite unable to explain himself and others just what it is that makes him uneasy. So they're trying to say that children are like anxious people, so they can't really see what is wrong. Children are often subject to emotional conditions which are not easily understood. Studies have shown how causes of fear change with age. Fear of snakes, for example, is hardly present before a child in its second year. Fear, however, increases in frequency to become practically general after 4 to 5 years. Now, some objects which may cause fear. So, fear of material objects, snakes, dogs, clowns, aeroplanes, and so on. The second one is social relationships. So, meeting strange people in dark rooms or you're in a large gathering. Now, anger, unlike fear, is not something you are born with. Anger is a learned response to environmental stimuli. It is social in nature. Now, the fundamental source of anger is the disruption of coordinated cerebral activity. That's fantastic. Now, fight and aggression are two different modes of reaction to anger. They tend to maintain a balance. Now, there are some Ways to arouse the emotion of anger: teasing by teachers, being unfairly treated, frustration of one's plan. Now, love and affection. The emotion of love is very important, and children can show love even at their young age. You see that primary school children are always happy. Waiting them they think. So you understand they can be happy. Sympathy. Many children like to be helpful to others. So children can show sympathy. So jealousy. I don't know if you've seen all these children that when the new baby brother is born, they will try to like put the baby inside a box and sell him off, or put him in the mailbox or something like that. So that's jealousy. Then, as you know, children can be sad and unhappy. Now, emotional maturity. The ability to govern and control one's emotion increases with age. Hence, emotion can be used for various purposes to make life worth living. Emotional maturity at any stage of growth reflects the result of development of all parts of a child's personality. So, emotional maturity shows like, the child is developing, or the child's personality is developing properly. That can affect each other. The concept of emotional development must therefore be considered in relation to the pupil's age level, and perhaps cognitive ability. So you can like try to understand where they are based on their age and perhaps cognitive ability. The following are some of the characteristics of emotional maturity: a change from a stage of helplessness to where they can help themselves. So they would go from mommy, I need your help, to mommy, I can do it by myself. So in that stage, even you as a parent, you should be trying to try to help themselves, is what I'm trying to say. Now, number 2 is shift from absolute dependence to increasingly balanced dependence. So, mommy, you don't have to follow me now. Daddy, I can do it, I can go on my own. So they are trying to be dependent. When the individual does not only appreciate present situation, but is now capable of relating the present to the past and the future. So now the child can reflect on his actions. He can learn that, I did this in the past and this happened in the future, or this happened, so should I do it again? Should I do it again? So he basically understands that there are consequences to his actions. So the child can now reflect. Increasing intellectual ability. So increase the ability to plan, increase the ability to pay attention, as well as increase the ability not to be easily frustrated. So as children, they try to put like the square box in the circle and they start crying. You know those games where they like put the box in the box, circle in the circle. Yeah. So they'll keep trying it and they'll start crying. But now their intellectual ability has improved. Not only would they get it, but even if they don't get it on the first try, they wouldn't quit or get frustrated. Now, development of capacity to identify oneself with a larger social group. So their social intelligence also increases and is the characteristic of emotional maturity. Now, social development. Children become more aware of whom they are as they change physically and develop their cognitive skills. They become socialized through their family members and significant others as they get to know the societal values, norms, and morals. The process of socialization, according to Osanere, that's Ngozi Osanere, in 2001, begins early in life and is a lifelong process. So socialization begins early in life and is a lifelong process. There are two broad theoretical bases to socialization. The first one supports psychoanalytic and social learning theories. The idea that the end product of adulthood is a direct function of parental-child rearing practices and the environment as envisioned by the child and as they affect him. So basically, if you read the first line, the first one supports psychoanalytic theories, and psychoanalysis is basically studying your subconscious. They are trying to understand how the subconscious affects what you do. Now, in this scenario, I think it's trying to say how your subconscious is formed, like when you were a child. So the actions that you are taking or your reactions to certain things are the cause of what happened to you as a child. Yeah. So not only what happened to you, the way you were brought up by your parents and how you saw it. So what they mean by that is, as envisioned by the child, what they mean by that is it is a subjective thing. So they might put you through, or they might raise you through method A, and you grow up in one way, and they might raise you through method, and they might raise another child through that same method, and you grow up a different way. A story I like is, there are two successful children, and then There were two twin brothers. One was a drunkard and one was a successful man. They asked the first one, "Oh, why are you a drunkard and a gambler and everything?" He said, "Oh, that's what I saw my dad doing. I just copied him." And the second one said, "My dad was also a drunkard and I said, oh, I wasn't going to do that." So basically what I'm trying to say is the same situations or the same rearing practices can be different to can yield two different results. So that's why they said envisioned by the child. How you see it can be different from how another person sees it. Now, the perception by Rogers, Maslow, and Gesell showed that the forces of growth and development within an individual are essentially creative, but with some variations. They asserted that given moderately constructive circumstances, an individual is self-directing, and that self-direction is intrinsically constructive. The main condition in a child's environment is acceptance, and if this is met, everything will work out. Now, bonding occurs, and their mother and later extend to other family members. So, bonding occurs first in children, between children and their mom, then extends to other family members. This is strengthening when the child's basic needs like food are met. If babies are not securely attached and they lack social bond, it affects child's social behavior. The parents play a fundamental role in the socialization and discipline of their children. Friends are also seen as momentary physical playmates. They make friends with other children of their age in their neighborhood, which are called peers. Apart from parents and peers, children also get socialized into societal norms and values by teachers. So he does not attach importance to the sex of his playmates, but from age 8 to 10, sex becomes important and boys play with boys, girls play with boys. Concept of social development. The first one is socialization. The process of an infant or a baby being made to adopt the way of life of his people is called socialization. Socialization is a process which lasts for the greater part of one's life, because even as adults, we can still learn about our traditions and customs. Now, when socialization is weak, individuals do not feel committed to the group. When children feel their basic need and belonging is threatened, we have problems. Children feel to be adequately socialized when different agencies of socialization make conflicting demands on and expect different things from the child. So, agencies of socialization, so that's family, let's say like your school, your church, your society and stuff like that. So if all of them have conflicting demands and expectations, the child may not be socialized adequately. Now, roles. Every one of us have roles. So this is self-explanatory. Teacher teaches, a father protects the family, a mother protects and nurtures the family, children obey their parents. Everybody has roles. Your uncles, uncle, your aunties. Now, sex identity. We learn sex differences in social interactions. We want to emphasize these differences in our country. There is so much prejudice surrounding being male or female. Currently, much talk and activity on educating women for development. Imbalance in school enrollment on the basis of sex. In some areas, males do not want to go to school. They want to make money. Star boy. In others, girls are not allowed to go to school. Now, sex role refers to behaviors which we perform in accordance with being male or being female. So, simply because you are male, you are made to do some things, and simply because you are female, you are made to do some things. Children learn early, as a preschool age, that boys and girls are different. They learn what behaviors are appropriate for their sex within the family. Don't cry. Boys do not cry. People often say to little boys, sit properly, you are a girl. They say to little girls. In some homes in this country, girls are expected to perform housework while their brothers only play football and other games and study. That's serious, sir. Gradually, certain stereotypes of how boys and girls should behave become learnt. For instance, girls are expected to be obedient and boys are rebellious. Boys are expected to be more brilliant than girls, especially in maths. But many changes are occurring, and that is fantastic. Now, social cooperation and teamwork. So as humans, we cooperate with one another to achieve great things. Cooperation does not mean that one must always do what others do. Rather, it enables the person to satisfy his own need and the needs of others in the group. So competition is striving to win a situation. So there's healthy competition where no one gets destroyed or hurt. There are situations where it's a healthy competition where you still get hurt, like physically hurt, but I get what they're trying to say. One group of children can compete with another, as in the case where there is a debate. That's fantastic. Now, theories of social development. Various psychologists have tried to explain the beginnings of social interaction and how they change with time. We will discuss two of these group of theories. Now, the first one is social learning theories. Now, basically, this theory states that we relate to people because we have been reinforced or rewarded to do so. In other words, we find out that those we relate to and the way we relate to them are rewarding. Bandura, who strongly proposes this theory, bases his theory on three principles of learning. Firstly, children learn behavior mainly by observing and imitating others. So basically, children learn new behaviors by watching you. What you do, they do, how you react to certain things. If you see a snake and you're afraid of the snake, the child to, I'm supposed to be afraid of the snake. So that's how they learn something. They turn the light off. You turn the light off every night. The child says, okay, the light is meant to be off every night. So they are watching you. Behavior is strengthened by reinforcement. So a child who relates to a father in a particular way and is rewarded either by gifts, a comment such as thank you or well done, or freedom from punishment is likely to continue. So, for example, the dad or mom is coming back from work, and then the child runs up to the dad. The child runs up to the dad and is like, "Oh, welcome," carries the bag and asks about the day. And the dad is like, "Oh, thank you very much, my son. Good boy." The child is likely to do that again. So you have strengthened that behavior. Now, when behavior is reinforced on an irregular basis, it tends to persist. I think this is saying it tends not to persist. So if the dad called him a good boy once, the next day he didn't call him a good boy. For like the next 3 days, didn't call him a good boy. After a while, the child will not do that action again. Then, unless you force him. So, but the day they forget to offer to carry our books, we make a big fuss. Okay, so briefly, social learning theories tell us that children relate to others by observing and imitating what people do. When the behavior pleases adults, they reward them. See, they're just saying the same thing. We learn from social learning theories that we should reinforce behavior which we want to strengthen and punish behavior which we do not want to strengthen. Then children learn from us and others since they look on us as models. Then we should be alert in encouraging, so be giving reinforcement on a regular basis if we want it to be repeated. Now, basic biological temperament theories. Now, there are 4 temperaments, or everyone has there are 4 main temperaments and they are tested online. So the first one is phlegmatic, you have sanguine, you have choleric, and I do not remember the 4th one, but you can do that by yourself. Now, position of some psychologists is that children are born with certain types of temperament. These temperaments affect the way they relate to people and the way people react to them. So basically, what this part is trying to say is, as a parent or as a teacher, you need to understand that children have different types of temperament. So that children are not just products of the society, they have their own personality, and teachers should be able to understand and then treat them or teach them according to their temperament. So parents are happy that he's not bothered and relationship with him is easy. If you don't have this easy relationship, is used for further interactions with people. So some children are born easy, then some children are born difficult to relate with. Then child relationship is not that easy too. So his experience of this initial problematic relationship colors how relate to people. The slow to warm up child is in between. Although Thomas and Chess started by studying infants as they followed the children for several years, they have discovered that those babies who started life with easy relationships tend to have easier and more successful relationships with children. Now, later social relationships, therefore, we are built on experience. The basic points of note for those who help to guide children, we have to organize our help around children's temperament. So you need to understand and be more patient with those who appear to be difficult. Then that children are not just helpless people dependent on us to lead them. They bring to the social situation their own individual difference. This meaning that children are not just there for us to mold, they already have their own inbuilt character, their own inbuilt personality, and they bring something to the table. They bring their own individual differences to the table. All right. That's the end of this class. So now welcome to the end of the class. Now we'll do the review. Now you know the two theories of social development is not scattered, but the two theories of social development, that is the social learning theory and the biological, that's temperament theories. Now social development and concepts behind it. Concepts of like social development is like socialization, roles, sex identity, cooperation and competition. Then we also know the concept of emotional maturity. So there are some characteristics of emotional maturity like social intelligence, like improvement in social intelligence. Now the person is able to more identify themselves into a particular group. They move from a state of helplessness to now they can help themselves. Mommy, I want to do this. Then they move from a state of dependence to independence. So there are more theories, you can read that. The emotions children can show. So emotions like happiness, jealousy, as I said. Now at least two theories of emotions. The two theories of emotion, now we have Wundt's tri-dimensional theory. The three dimensions are pleasantness and unpleasantness, excitement and depression, tension and relaxation. And you know that you can explain, or according to Wundt, you can explain any feeling or emotion using these three dimensions. Then meaning and causes of emotion, you know the meaning, you know it is from a word, immover, meaning to move out. So now we have the summary questions. Immover is a Greek word, true or false? That is false. Immover is a Latin word meaning to move out. Name three causes of emotion. So change in like adjustment in like social background, or social institution. You meet strange faces. Then bridges pattern of emotion. So the bridges that we're talking about from 1932, that's under theories of emotion. It's from 0 to what? That is 0 to 2 years old. That's what she's studying, what a pattern works for. Then what's the next question? What emotions do children feel at age 18? Maybe at month 18. So what they feel is jealousy, an affection for others. I didn't really cram this to my head. Name the three dimensions of Wundt's tri-dimensional theory of emotions. The first one is pleasantness and unpleasantness. Next one is tension and relaxation. Next one is excitement and depression. Now list to criticisms. That's the hardest word in all of English. Criticisms. Now the first criticism, that it is not infallible. Another one is that relaxation is not the polar opposite of tension. Relaxation is like the 0 point of tension. Then the use of depression is not right, like it's not logical. The more logical one will be calm to depression, but you understand how it works. So okay, there's also explain boredom according to it. So between pleasant and unpleasantness, which one will boredom have in that? It will be unpleasant. Tension and relaxation, you'll be relaxed. Excitement and depression, you'll be depressed. So unpleasantness, relaxed, and depression, that is boredomness. So now you understand. What is the sequence of common sense view? Now this is in James Lange theory. Now James Lange theory goes somewhat against the common sense view. Now the common sense view is you see a stimulus. Okay, let me use an example. Now you're a super villain, you want to steal, or you're a bad guy, you want to steal money. Superman lands at the door. The common sense view is you see Superman, that is the stimulus, then you get afraid, and then you begin to sweat or there's an arousal, or your heart rate starts beating. But James Lange is saying you are still in Superman lands, so now you've seen the stimulus. The next thing that will happen is you get an arousal according to James Lange. So your heart rate starts beating and your palms get sweaty. So now because this has happened, that will cause the feeling of fear. That will arouse the emotion of fear. So that's James Lange. Now list two signs of emotional maturity. So social intelligence has improved, intellectual capability has improved. Another one will be from moving from dependence to independence. So what are three principles of social learning theory? So 3 principles of social learning theory. Now social learning is the one that you reinforce a behavior or you strengthen a behavior by reinforcement and reward or removing a punishment. So the first one is that children imitate you. The second one is you strengthen a behavior that you want to see, and the third one is that you should try to make the reward or the punishment on a regular basis. So the first one is that children observe and imitate you. They watch what you're doing, they see your reactions, they see your actions. The second one is you should reinforce a behavior that you want to see, or you should strengthen a behavior with reinforcement. So like I said, the child washes the plates. You say, oh yes, I want my child to keep washing plates. You give him food or you give him sweets. The child will do it next time. And the last one is you should try to do this on a regular basis so that the behavior can stick. If you do it on an irregular basis, the child will stop doing it. And then when the child stops doing it, will get angry that, oh, why didn't you do it? Now, I think that is all. Then we'll have like the part 5. And also I wanted to say I was wrong about like the emotions that you are born with. You are the only fears that you are born with. So before I said height and dark places, but it is actually falling, and that's the height, falling and loud noises. So every other fear is learnt or is gotten from the environment. So yeah, good night and good luck, I guess.